I want to tell you about a project that I am super excited about. And it's sort of an option. I put it under enrichment activities, and it's a STEAM project. That means we are going to connect science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics into the same project. Now, I wish we could be at school every day so we could do this at school together, but you can do it at home, and maybe some kids would have time to do it at school or at least work on it. And I want us to make a Native American longhouse. We just have been reading about it in the life of the Iroquois, I'm going to say it right. And because we have been learning about it, I thought it would be so cool to make it. And I gave you a list of materials that you could use. This does not have to be something you buy. This is all stuff you could just find at your house. You could use straws if you have straws. You could use construction paper. You could use rulers and glue and paint, cardstock. You could use toothpicks. You could use a cardboard box or a pizza box or a shoe box. You could use chart paper or graph paper or just whatever you have. And so our goal, I want us to look at how we will be using all parts of STEAM in this activity. We are going to be looking at science, and so we're going to be the science of creating and building this Native American longhouse. The technology, our text came from technology, but you can also use technology to maybe figure out the exact measurement of your longhouse. Engineering, you definitely are going to be designing and building this longhouse. In art, well, you're going to be creating and designing and painting maybe and putting together. In mathematics, you're going to be figuring out area and perimeter and some multiplicative comparison. So you're going to draw back from things you knew from the past. So I always like to think about, what am I learning today? Well, I'm going to use my knowledge of perimeter and scale to create a Native American longhouse. Why am I learning this? Well, it gives me a better understanding of Native American culture and how math has always been used in the real world. And how am I going to know if I learned it? I will create a longhouse with a scale that shows my viewers its true dimensions. So let's look at a little vocabulary you might need to remember. You might need to remember perimeter. I always kind of think about like the fence around your house, the fence around my cow pasture, that it's the perimeter, it's the outside. Now, we also need to know scale. So scale represents the relationship between a measurement on a model and the actual measurement of the object. So this is the actual house, and this is just the little scaled model over here. So we're not going to make the size of a real longhouse, because remember how big that was. Half of a football field. Okay, so here are some dimensions. Dimensions are measurements of any kind, of some kind. Length, width, size. And so length is a measurement of something from end to end. So I gave you a picture. And then breadth or width is the top to bottom. Now, we also had some words in this text that we looked at ahead of time. Palisade, which was a fence of logs. You might want to put a palisade around yours. Or a wattle, which was a frame of sticks. And a wattle was smaller than the longhouse, so you might want to make a wattle. The text is called Life in an Iroquois Village. You have that text already. So I've given you a list of materials that you might want to use. First, you need to read the whole text, because it's going to be important that you know all the interesting information. And then I've given you just a few things to think about. Think about how they protected their villages. Think about why were animals carved or painted on the door, because you might want to do that on your door. Describe the wattle frame and how it was created. Okay, and I gave you a picture here of a longhouse. Now, the average longhouse was 60 feet long, 16 feet wide, and 15 feet high. So, what would be the perimeter of a longhouse? How do you find perimeter? I would draw this. Anytime I'm looking for perimeter and area, I draw a picture. So I think you could draw a picture of a rectangle over here and think about the length and the width. Now, we also have to think about a scale. So after we have gotten kind of our floor plan down, then we want to think about a scale. So how much would you want 1 inch to equal? Would you want it to equal 10 feet? What would you want it to equal? Okay, now, after we have created it, we're going to answer some questions about our longhouse. You don't have to look at them yet, but I put them on here so that after we have created a longhouse, we can look at these things. Okay, now, at the very end, there are questions. These are not optional. The questions are about the text that we read. So we're going to answer the questions. Some of them we'll do together, and some of them you'll do alone. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do this week is we're going to go out to the playground, and I'll video this with my phone, and we're going to measure off the actual length and width of a longhouse so we can get a visual of how large it really was. And then together we will decide how we would create a scale to make a smaller version of that longhouse. This gives you a place to start, and this is an enrichment activity, so you don't have to do it. But I think you should try it and see if you can build one and see if you can come up with the area and perimeter. Tomorrow I'll tell you a little more about area and perimeter in case you've forgotten.